Why is nobody talking about how wild Kokomi is gonna be? She's gonna be monumental! Hi, this is a video talking about my planned builds and build theories for our mermaid princess, Sangonomiya Kokomi. I'm gonna be talking about possible weapon options for her, what artifacts I have leveled for her to test, and all of my testing, my entire plan I'll be doing in the coming week once she's out. Kokomi is going to be the Zhongli of healers and catalyst users, so there's a lot to theorize and talk about when it comes to her builds. Let me start by talking about how I think Kokomi is going to be a sleeper in terms of damage, despite her not being able to crit. Remember how I mentioned that Kokomi is the Zhongli of healers? This means two things. She is a DPS hybrid who can also support, but she also has many artifact choices, especially if you'd like to capitalize on her damage. But she also has a lot of artifact choices for supporting roles as well. She is also the Hydro element, which is known to be a hybrid element as a whole, having one of the highest multipliers for elemental reactions with Vaporize, while also facilitating in supporting other reactions such as Electrocharge and Freeze. The Hydro element also has the most healers in this element, which is also related to healing in some way on its own, so it'll be something she'll do best, so she is very much a hybrid character by design. I won't get into how I think the Hydro element needs to be slightly altered though, but I think Kokomi will be a great character for the Hydro element. To start off this video, I'm going to go over the weapons in this game and see how many of them are viable for Kokomi users. Oh, geez, there's actually a lot less catalyst weapons than I thought. Oh my god, there's only kind of four. 5 stars? The fourth one is coming with Kokomi, but like what? I thought there was at least one more. Okay, well, that's really sad. Anyway, let's start off with 3-star weapons. Since surprisingly, a lot of these weapons work well with Kokomi upon further inspection, but some of them restrict her roles in some ways, meaning she can't be too much of a hybrid that she always is. Note, I do not recommend leveling 3-star weapons because they are okay for Kokomi. It's more of if you suddenly have them or you're an early game player, these can actually be incredible. So let's start. The Magic Guide has low base attack, but really high elemental mastery, only losing out to the Sacrificial Fragments at 221. But it has a less base attack by 100 than the Sacrificial Fragments, so that's pretty eh. But its passive, though, is incredibly good for electrocharged elemental compositions, where Kokomi is the Hydro Enabler or Applicator. It's flat damage, so it's pretty good. The Emerald Orb has a quite high base attack. It's only 6 less than the Sacrificial Fragments, which that weapon, Sacrificial Fragments, is the lowest base attack weapon in the 4-star category, so that's something to keep in mind. The Emerald Orb really has a viable place on Kokomi because its passive is tailor-made for Hydro Catalysts. It buffs your attack really high if you trigger a Hydro-based reaction. This can take the Emerald Orb above the Sacrificial Fragments as a DPS weapon, but only at Refinement 5, and I wouldn't invest too much into it, especially if this weapon is only for Kokomi. I know you have a DPS Barber somewhere. And finally, the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, which is a weapon a lot of people are talking about for Kokomi. It's one of the only HP scaling weapons in the game currently, but I would say it's really only good for supportive roles. It forces Kokomi to be more of a buffer and a healer or off-field Hydro Applicator rather than on-field anything because the passive transfers to your next character. This catalyst can be a nice niche book though for certain character builds like 4-piece Millith, which is a perfect off-field support Kokomi build, and her skill seems to last a very long time and generate some energy particles. Hydro ones, of course. Now I'm going to go over the not viable 3 stars because you just need to know how not viable they are. The Twin Nephrite is a crit weapon that Kokomi won't be able to use very well, but I will say, there are other 4-star weapons that have crit that Kokomi can utilize by wasting the crit stats, but the passives are way better to use. So it might not matter to waste crit for certain passives. Anyway, and then the other Olisori is just a poopy early weapon that just heals you per particle, so it's not even that good. Just throw it away. Just throw it away. It's fine. And that's all the 3-star weapons. Surprisingly, 2 of them are pretty decent for DPS. Though I wouldn't level them, of course, unless you have them at Refinement 5. Now the 4 stars. This is where we're gonna find a lot of nuance here. I'm gonna go in alphabetical order. The Blackcliff Agate is not a great weapon since its passive isn't worth wasting the crit stat for, even at higher refinements, yes. This weapon is just not worth picking up either because the Widsith is millions better in every way. The Dodo Coattails is probably going to be Kokomi's best 4-star DPS weapon, since it boosts normal and charge attacks while giving a butt ton of attack. This is a really solid choice since it boosts other things than just attack, which is great for diminishing returns. Stacking too much of one type where others are lacking. You know, stacking too much of attack, but you're lacking on another thing, right? The Eye of Perception is okay. It's not great, but it boosts attack, but the passive is quite wasteful on Kokomi, since that damage is considered physical damage that scales based on attack values, and it seems like she's not going to be known for her attack values. And remember, that hit can crit, so she'd be wasting that part of the passive, so overall, not good. The Favonius Codex is a joke of a weapon on her. She can't crit, so the passive is hilariously wasted. The Frostbearer, though, it could be alright in a freeze team, but again, with the Eye of Perception, it's an attack scaling passive that actually is physical damage, so if you build a physical Kokomi, I'd like to see. The Hakushin Ring can be an alright choice if that's really the only free-to-play weapon that you have, and if you can actually use her in an Electro Charge comp, which the passive boosts the damage that Electro damage mixes with, which includes Hydro. So if you have an off-field damage dealer like Beidou or Fischl, or even the Shogun, you would boost Kokomi's damage and their Electro damage from your other teammates, but Kokomi has to be on the field though, so keep that in mind. The weapon also has a high base attack with some nice energy recharge, because Kokomi might have some energy issues later. We'll see. The Mappa Mare is actually, in my opinion, going to be the best DPS weapon for Kokomi that focuses on elemental reactions. And if you don't have Dodo Coattails, this is a great alternative. But you need to have an elemental reaction in your damage, so be careful of that. I will unfortunately not be testing this weapon. However, I have a buddy of mine who will give us F2P tests and be using this weapon in testing with me for my full Kokomi weapon testing video. So stay tuned for that. The Mappa Mare has a lot of promise. The Prototype Amber is a really sad weapon. It's unfortunately the only 4-star that has HP percent that will most likely benefit Kokomi's alleged HP scaling, but personally I think this weapon only helps her energy recharge and healing. That's it. It's kind of a wasted passive and a wasted weapon. It's not a weapon that's a hybrid by any means at all. Meaning Kokomi mostly will be healing with this weapon, so if that's all you care about, cool. There you go. The Royal Grimoire better not work by making Kokomi crit, because I swear, there better not be a single optimal crit choice to make her crit massive damage, because otherwise that's just against her entire character, which is not being able to crit and having high scaling values, hopefully. That would just be stupid. Anyway, it's a poo-poo weapon, it's fine, let's move on. The Sacrificial Fragments is going to be a great hybrid weapon for Kokomi.
But Leo, why is it a hybrid weapon when it has low base attack and high elemental mastery? You need elemental reaction damage to make that a hybrid DPS.
Because of its passive, my dear. Kokomi's E will pulsate, and most likely each pulse hitting a target will have a chance to reset the skill. This means you get energy, more damage, more healing, and the weapon itself has a high elemental mastery for nice reaction damage if you so happen to use other elements with her. That sounds pretty damn hybrid to me, so check yourself. Also, I forgot to mention, this weapon may work amazingly with a 4-piece Shimenawa set that, you know, deals a massive amount of damage when you use your skill, and having that skill constantly reset, which Kokomi might have some cooldown issues, will be relieved with the Sacrificial Fragments, so we will see. And I'll have a buddy helping me test out this weapon alongside a 4-piece Shimenawa. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, the controversial choices. The Solar Pearl. I think the Solar Pearl might be a sleeper pick for Kokomi. Hear me out though. If you have no other Catalyst user that you're using, whether it be in Abyss right now or at all, Hear me out. You're wasting the substat, yes. But remember, you'd probably waste elemental mastery stats if you were not using her for vaporize or electrocharged, right? What if you're in a freeze team? Same deal there. The solar pearl buffs normal attacks, skill damage, and burst damage. We won't know for sure if Kokomi deals an initial hit on her burst damage from using her burst, but it buffs two powerful parts in her kit, her skill and her normal attacks. So I, for one, am testing this weapon out for serious big brain testing. And the Widsith. I'm oddly excited to test this one out. Okay. The Widsith is great for the same reasons as the Solar Pearl. This was the weapon I alluded to earlier in this video, and I'm kind of low-key obsessed with using this weapon in really weird ways. This weapon's passive is bonkers at Refinement 5. Granted, she wastes the crit while the song buffs are gone on cooldown, but I want to try Kokomi in sort of a sub-DPS role with the Widsith to see if it's viable even with the long 30-second cooldown and just seeing her damage spike in 10-second intervals. I'm just really interested to see that. I don't know why. Okay, cooling down the hype. Now, the Wine and Song as the last weapon in the 4-star category. I mean, I guess if you don't have Mona, then sure, it's okay. It could be a good on-field DPS weapon for Kokomi, and it gives some good energy recharge with high base attack, just like the Hakushin Ring. Otherwise, it's not really a very special weapon otherwise, so I'm not sure, but it's okay. Alright, well then that's all the 4 stars. Now for the 5 stars. You can surprisingly use all, 3 5-star catalysts in the game. Jeez, it's still such a little number. There's 4 coming with Kokomi, and Kokomi's is only good for her. Got such little choices for catalysts, that's weird. Anyway, Kokomi's weapon, of course, is her best in slot. I'm gonna toy with this weapon with different artifact stat choices just so I can see what hits harder, because I have my suspicions and it may give us some surprising results. Otherwise, the Lost Prayers can work with Kokomi, since she heals herself and she's on the field constantly to get the full elemental bonus from the passive, but I don't think I would waste the crit stat unless you literally have 0 catalyst users you're using. I don't know. I don't think I would use it though, but could be something. And then finally, the last 2 weapons I'm going to talk about at the same time since they are quite similar. The Skyward Atlas and the Memory of Dust. Both are attack percent boosting weapons like crazy, and the Memory of Dust is the best attack boosting weapon for catalysts so far, but you need to have a shielding teammate to make sure you trigger the full shielding passive to get the full mileage. It also benefits every character, but Kokomi even more since it's just attack. Same goes for the Skyward Atlas, except you get elemental damage bonus as a flat passive, which may scale a bit higher sometimes instead of attack, which can also make you a little bit more flexible with your party. And that's all the weapons. Hope you learned something. I don't know. But anyway, if I didn't make it clear, I'm going to test out the following weapons. Kokomi's weapon, Dodoko Tails, Solar Pearl, Widsith, and my buddy Alan that I'm going to be doing testing with for the Kokomi testing video will be testing out the Sacrificial Fragments and the Mappa Mari. Okay, here are my artifact builds I'll be trying for Kokomi. I'll be showing them on screen here. I'll be primarily playing with the following artifact pieces in multiple 2-piece combinations and 4-piece sets. The Heart of Depth, Wanderer's Troop, Tenacity of the Millelith, and Maiden's Beloved. I know that my buddy Alan will do Shimenawa, Heart of Depth, Millelith, Maidens, and a little bit of Wanderer's combinations, but he will focus more on a heavy damage Shimenawa set that I cannot provide, so I'm very excited to see that result. I will have a lot of 2-piece options to test out, so here they are. 2-piece Wanderers with 2-piece Hydro, 2-piece Hydra with 2-piece Millelith, 2-piece Maidens with 2-piece Hydro, and 2-piece Maidens with 2-piece Millelith. And with the 4 pieces, I have a lot of nuance here, especially with my 4-piece Wanderers that I'll do, with a attack balanced build, HP balanced build, and an Elemental Mastery balanced build. And what the hell, I'm going to do an all Elemental Mastery build. I don't have enough attack or HP pieces to stack all HP or attack, but I am planning on doing an all HP stacking build that's going to be, I think, a 2-piece set. My other 4-piece set is going to be 4-piece Hydro with an attack balanced build and an elemental mastery build. I don't have enough for full elemental mastery, and I'm trying to get an HP timepiece, so we'll see what I have when the time comes. And of course, as I mentioned before, my buddy Alan will be testing primarily the 4-piece Shimenella, as well as some 2-piece attack combinations, like 2-piece Hydro, 2-piece Millilith, with 2-piece attack as well. Oh, and real quick, before we finish off this video, I wanted to quickly talk about the main stat options for pieces that may have a lot of different options, but I can narrow them down with some theorizing here. For timepieces for Kokomi, you'd want an attack percent timepiece, since Kokomi may lack in attack more than HP scaling. Though, for the attack percent timepiece, you want HP substats that have a high roll in HP percent or flat HP. If not, HP percent timepieces are fine as long as you have attack percent rolls and maybe some elemental mastery on it. So remember, throughout this part, I'm going to talk about how much you need to balance attack percent and HP, because you don't want to lack on too much of one or the other. For circlets and hats, I have a suspicion that you'd want healing bonus as your main stat. It seems like Kokomi may scale additionally with her healing bonus too, so that's why I'm really excited to try Maiden's Beloved 2 pieces on her. Which, by the way, I thought 2-piece Maidens did not work because it said healing effectiveness, and I swear I tested it out and there was a bug recently that didn't add the values, and then they patched it out in a stealth patch. So they actually did add 15% healing bonus. And I threw away my dang Maidens pieces. But I will farm more of them, so don't worry, I will test them out. And yes, healing bonus works with the 2-piece set, and I think it's going to be the most valuable piece on the hat. Otherwise, HP or attack percent is fine as well, but it's sort of a balance act on whichever you're missing the most based on your timepiece main stat or substats. And finally, as for the goblet, you'll have a lot of choices actually. Hydro bonus will be your best for DPS, but HP percent could work for a mixed damage and healing build. And I'm personally trying to stack HP with a 2-piece Heart of Depth and 2-piece Millilith build. So I'm going to try that out, and it's going to be with and without her weapon to see what will be higher damage and see if there's other multipliers that we'll have to think about. But attack percent is valuable for the goblet too. Just make sure you're not overstacking attack. You might want other values like HP or Hydro damage. Okay, that's more or less all the tests I'm going to do though. We'll go through each weapon with each set and each stat type and see what will do the highest numbers. I hope you guys are excited to see that video and the test results as much as I am. I'll be doing a big portion of my testing live on my Twitch, so come by if you want to interact with me in real time and see the testing early alongside my Kokomi pulls. I'm guaranteed Kokomi, fresh off of pity, so her weapon may be a challenge for me, but we'll see. Alright, well, I hope I didn't talk your ear that much. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you later. Bye-yo.